Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the second in our series of webinars on the future of online category management, hosted by the ECR community and Clavis Insight. We're going to start the webinar now, and I'm going to hand over to Declan Carolyn from ECR community to introduce it.
Hi everybody, my name is Declan Carolyn. I'm co-chair of ECR Community and General Manager of ECR Ireland, and I'm delighted to welcome you to the second ECR Community webinar on the future of online category management. This is the second in a series of 3 webinars. Over 140 people joined us last month for the first webinar in this series, which focused on tomorrow's category management today. How do brands achieve their goals in a world without planograms and shelves? If you missed it or wish to catch up, there's a link at ecr-community.org to do so. Today we have over 270 people registered from over 28 countries for the second in the series, Content, Consideration and the Online Consumer. And hopefully you can join us for the final webinar on November the 15th, when we will consider availability in the online channel. Next slide please, Paul. Following this, we will consider a further series of webinars, so please feel free to contact us with your feedback or proposals if you would actually like to participate in them. Allow me to spend a moment to place these webinars in context. We are all aware how critical the online retail environment is becoming and how the channel is here to stay. Digital disruption is reinventing consumer expectations. Factors driving this disruption are rapidly evolving and include activities such as always-on connectivity, extensive social media, the growing use of artificial intelligence, the rapid rise of effective voice recognition, as illustrated by recent announcements from Walmart and Ocado, for example, and increasingly interactive user experiences. Additionally, a major factor in driving industry-wide change is that consumers expect any positive digital experience with any product or service to be replicated by all others and have developed a very low tolerance for poor digital usability. Every company, every product and every service must track digital developments and very quickly adapt their own offering. Consumer impatience for failing to do so is unforgiving. To this extent, these webinars are designed to represent a valuable source of information for us all, an opportunity to further our knowledge and share learnings in this rapidly evolving discipline, and should allow all listeners to benchmark their company's offerings and track industry developments accordingly. Next slide, please. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. All participants will be on mute for the duration of the call, but we do encourage you to ask questions or to make a comment by posting to the Q&A box located on the right-hand side of your screen. We will answer as many questions as time allows at the end of the presentation, and I would strongly encourage this dialogue, as it would make for richer content, which is particularly valuable when dealing with as rapidly a changing an environment as online retailing. Next slide, please. Here is the agenda for today. I will refrain from giving an in-depth introduction to ECR this time. For those interested, please check out webinar number 1. Other than to say, ECR is the flagship for collaboration, and ECR Community has a network of over 1,800 retailers, manufacturers and service providers. Considering that category management is part of ECR's heritage, our objective in these webinars is to facilitate dialogue between the experts and practitioners in online category management. Joining us for today's session once again are Danny Silverman from Clavis Insight, who leads their product and corporate marketing team, and will discuss always-on content, how to deliver and monitor winning content for the online channel. Then Daniel Corsten, who is professor at IE Business School, who will consider organising for success, designing your team to create and maintain engaging e-commerce content. So please enjoy the webinar, and do consider questions or comments that will deepen the conversation. Over to you, Danny.
Great, thank you very much, and I'm very happy to be here today. Paul, if you want to hand over slide control. Great, and I'll be talking through today a few items around content. First of all, understanding the importance of it, how to create and manage engaging product detail pages, and finally the KPIs that you would want to use to measure the effectiveness of your content. So let's start by talking about the importance of content. As online purchases continue to increase, we know that in CPG and FMCG, we tend to see a smaller percentage of online sales relative to the effort that it takes. But as many have probably seen by now, there's several studies out now that prove the impact of digital and e-commerce on offline purchase. So a few years ago, it was less than half. Last year, it crossed about the halfway mark, and they're projecting forward 60, 70, even 80% of all retail purchases, online or off, being influenced in some way by an online or digital interaction. And for that reason, it's very important that when the shoppers encounter your content, that it's accurate and up to date. Because what they're doing is they're researching. This is the reason why they're going online first, but not necessarily purchasing. It's a low time investment or a convenient way to research new items and products that they might need to discover because they've entered a new category. One of the terms for a couple of years ago, there was a lot of noise about showrooming, this idea that shoppers were using their phones in the aisles of brick and mortar retailers and making purchases online instead of at the physical shelf. That term was turned around into web rooming, which was the term that followed to describe people doing the opposite, ultimately browsing online before they go into store. And it is important to understand both dynamics. At the end of the day, the shopper is one person. She may choose to browse online or off. She may choose to shop online or off. The important thing is that the content is available wherever, whenever, and however he or she wants to access it. Just to talk for a moment about how that online research is used, the majority are using it to look up product information. That's a shift versus check or compare prices. So if we go back 3, 4, 5 years, the primary use of looking online was to compare prices, but product information has taken the lead in terms of the #1 reason why consumers are looking at product content before making a purchase. They might also be looking for deals or promotions, or looking to find out more about something that they've heard about through an advertisement or through social media. In terms of how to approach content, let's take a look at the Clavis model. If you've heard our webinars before, earlier this year, you've heard us talk about the 6 Ps e-commerce intelligence framework. The 6 Ps e-commerce intelligence framework was built off the traditional 4 Ps marketing model that many of you may have already been familiar with, but we've adapted it to account for the nuances of e-commerce. So the 6 Ps in this case would be, the first 5 are perfect page, which is what today is all about, content accuracy, ratings, and reviews. Product placement in terms of where the product is organized on the retailer site, price and promotion, of course, and then finally which products you actually make available to purchase, what the assortment is, what the product configuration is. Those 5 Ps then drive the 6th P of performance, which is all about sales share, as well as share of search and search rank. Traditionally, there's always a lot of focus on how do I improve search, how do I improve search, and we're going to we'll have some case studies today on improving search, but it's important to keep in mind that the first 5 Ps are what are within your control as a manufacturer, and that 6th P of performance is the output, it's the result, it's the measurement of all of your other efforts, because manufacturers, of course, can't directly influence the retailer search algorithm. That algorithm is a function of these other 5 areas, these other 5 Ps that a manufacturer can focus on. Just to bring that to light, here's one case study that I wanted to pause for a moment on, and this is where we did a statistical correlation to compare the optimization of the various Ps and measured the impact on POS. So for example, in the case of search, in this particular case study, we saw a 75% loss of sales from an item dropping from position 5 to position 15. A 10% sales loss per SKU per day out of stock. Of course, it's 100% on the days that it's out of stock, but the trailing effect continues long after due to the loss in rank. Promotions of 15% sales increase from retailer coupons, and so on. It's notable, the last one, content integrity, SKUs with at least 350 characters or 50 words in additional description were found to have an 85% higher rate of sales. So you can see how each of these combines to contribute to your overall sales performance and represent ways to improve your business. So how do we do that? Well, let's talk a little bit about content. First of all, across the internet, there's a staggering amount of content being created every minute, and no doubt these statistics are already out of date. But for example, in Instagram, every minute 216,000 photos are posted. In YouTube, 72 hours of new video is uploaded. In Facebook, 2.5 million pieces of content are shared. And all of this content, somebody is trying to make some kind of a message, trying to deliver their message, and trying to do it in the most compelling way possible. Now, it might not always be to sell a product, but certainly in our case, that's what the primary goal would be. So it's really important that we understand how to capture their attention. 55% of website visitors spend less than 15 seconds reading content on a page. So visual content is really important. And I'm going to come back to that in just a moment. But if we take a look at the work that, for example, University of Cambridge and Unilever have worked on relative to the Mobile Hero image standard, this is all about going from a world where we only use the image of the product to represent the product on the product detail page to using mobile optimized images that can be quickly scanned in those few seconds that the shopper may be scrolling through the products. And it makes very clear what is the brand, what is the form, what is the style, and what is the size. And those four things are the most critical pieces of information. I believe they have 5 or 6 different templates at this point, depending on the category, because those priorities may vary. The most important thing to keep in mind, though, is that when it comes to search, whether it's desktop or mobile, that visual image is driving the decision to click more than anything else. You have 15 seconds for that image to capture the shopper's attention and get them to click on the product detail page. Eye tracking studies show again and again that the visual image is more important than the text, whereas the text is important for search optimization, which we'll come back to in just a moment. So here's the golden rules of content. First of all, titles should include relevant, high-volume keywords that shoppers use to search. Typically, most brands at this point have already done some amount of research. They know what those category keywords are. But take the time to do the research if you don't already have it. And I'm going to give a couple examples of that in just a moment. But the most important thing is having those category keywords. Even if it's not part of the legal product title, having those category keywords will result in the product coming up in search, much more likely to come up in search. Secondary keywords for product page content, like product descriptions, ingredients, and so on, those help as well, not to the extent that the title does, but it is important to have those keywords appearing in your feature bullets and descriptions. And then we get to below the fold content. So that's A+ content, enhanced content, videos, and images. All of these contribute to making the product detail page more impactful and more likely to come up in search. We know that product detail pages with enhanced content perform better. We know that product detail pages with a video on the page perform better. The immediate connection to sales is perhaps a slower burn, if you will, but it's still part of the overall equation to optimizing the product detail page. And keep in mind, for the truly engaged shopper who's doing research, that enhanced content is an empty canvas, a much larger canvas than brands typically have on a product package at the physical shelf. So take advantage of it. And then the last piece is thinking about the shopper decision hierarchy. And the reason why you want to do this is not only for, well, first of all, for the product title, and keeping in mind that the title may get truncated if you're looking on a desktop or a mobile app, and you want to have the first few words be the ones that are most likely to trigger. I still see a lot of manufacturers putting, particularly in the CE space, but even some cases in CPG or FMCG, putting the product code, the item code at the start of the title. And that's taking up precious characters, whereas what you really want it is at the end of the title because it's still going to work as effectively in search, but visually that's not necessarily going to help. The other reason why shopper decision is important is to think about things like how pages are going to be variated, where retailers offer that. Variation is where you might have more than one style, so maybe or size. So you might have the 450 ml and the 900 ml variated on the same page, or the shampoo and the conditioner. Those variations should follow the shopper decision tree rather than trying to cram everything into one page, because if it's logically organized, it's going to help the shopper find the page and be a much better shopping experience and much more likely to lead to conversion. So I have just one case study to take us through. And in this situation, this product was failing on the rules that had been set up for what should be in the product title, which meant that the keywords that we just talked about weren't optimized. We also knew that the item wasn't performing well on search. So this client went ahead and updated the product name on the retail site to match that category term. And what we saw in a 2-week period was a search rank increase from rank 36 to number 3. And here's some visuals of what that looked like in the analytics. So in the first part, they would have added the category keyword into their trusted title, done the audit check on it with Clavis, and found that these titles were missing those keywords. And then you can see in the measurement over a period of time the jump from rank 36 up to rank 3. This is one really basic case study. We have dozens like this where we've seen again and again where a product was created on a retailer page using the legal name of a product and not necessarily the category terms. You can probably think in your own categories and your own brands where the title of a product doesn't necessarily have the category keyword in it. An example might be toothpaste that is a sensitive toothpaste, but it says sensitivity instead of sensitive. Lager versus beer. We have a number of different case studies like that where using the right term that the shopper is actually looking for can greatly enhance and boost your search results. So as we take a look at some examples of great content, first of all, from a benefits and features standpoint, you want to make sure that you're as complete as possible. Include as many images as you can and product benefits. You want those feature statements to be very oriented towards a feature benefit statement. If you can include how to use ideas or videos, that's great. And then certainly for compliance, you want safety information, any technical specifications that might be relevant, manufacturing details, and ingredients. The key pieces are the title, description, and image. If you work on nothing else, work on those 3 things first. Have a title that's keyword optimized, have a primary image that's correct and up to date, have a product description. 3 things can help more than anything else. Then add your endorsements. Again, ratings and reviews. We have a number of these now that shows that the addition of ratings and reviews measurably improves your search rank. So if you're working on Amazon and you do an Amazon buying program, we've been able to measure an increase in search rank after, say, 50 or 80 reviews were uploaded. So it's really important to page optimization. You're looking at quantity of reviews as well as quality reviews. Also, any type of recommendations or quality marks are relevant. And then finally, whatever context you can provide in the enhanced content. And that's really those brand statements, reason to believe, and so on. Finally, consider best practices when it comes to content. First and foremost, it's really hard to do this alone from a bot standpoint. Content is time-intensive, very resource-intensive. Without senior management support, it's going to be very difficult to get the resources needed to create e-commerce optimized content in terms of both images and titles, have a proper payment dam, and it's important to have the right talent as well as the right partnerships, and that will depend on how you're structuring your team. Whether you're building out your team with more talent, or you're a smaller team and having the right partnership to support your efforts. Right level investment from the top down. Finally, accountability scorecarding. What gets measured gets managed. That's the most important element of the 6 P's e-commerce intelligence framework, is that it gives you a framework for how to measure the results of what you're doing. In the absence of consistent POS and consistent share, this is a way to scorecard all of your efforts and make sure that you can prove to your management, to your peers, to your colleagues that you're making great progress on the efforts that you're making in e-commerce. And those efforts go so far beyond just the impact of e-commerce, but as we started, it impacts your offline sales as well. So thank you very much. I'll be here for questions at the end, but at this it over to Professor Daniel Corp.
Thank you, Danny. So welcome to the seminar. What I would like to talk about is how to organize for the success in content management. So academic research has looked into the effects of content in many different ways, and all research shows exactly as Danny has pointed out, the more images, the richer images, the more additional content you have, the better it is. There is, of course, much more detailed research that I don't have the time to go into that actually looks at what content works for which target group. But the general view is there is a need for rich content in order to convert shoppers. And if anyone is out there who would like to know a little bit more about current research, feel free to drop me an email. Clearly, we need more than just the basic content. The basic content is the foundation, but more and more we need not just basic content, we need enhanced content. And the enhanced content goes beyond the basics by adapting and repurposing brand assets to create these compelling digital experiences that shoppers more and more expect from us. These product pages that have this enhanced digital content, they can actually amplify the brand messages and create these deep connections between the shoppers and the products. Now, there is not that much research out on how you can actually organize your company in order to win with content management. Thanks to Faisal Rangwala of Johnson & Johnson, who recently presented what Johnson & Johnson is doing in this space. I'm happy to present some of these general lessons that we can draw from Johnson & Johnson and that work for small, but also for big, in principle for any kind of company. If we go to the next slide, please. So let's take a step back and find out where do we actually need product information management. Obviously, we need them for consumers because consumers expect reliable and trustworthy product information, and it helps the purchase decision. But let's not forget how we actually have to organize ourselves internally, because internally, product content is needed for marketing, for sales, and for other business functions. Marketing needs the highest quality product information and can save time and effort on requests for product information and can leverage the product information for business needs. Sales needs it, again, also for many different activities, to instance, to access product data, content, to do the product setup and maintenance, to do content audit and updates, and even other business functions like finance need these things once in a while. But let's not rush here. The question is, how do we actually organize ourselves here? One of the things that should be clear by now is that accurate, consistent, and timely content is a winning factor in e-commerce. However, a small brand and clearly a bigger brand, they have to manage hundreds, perhaps thousands of assets. They have to manage them perhaps across dozens, perhaps across hundreds of brand, marketing, and sales managers. So we cannot leave it up to the current systems to manage these items. We have to come up with a new way of managing this. And so one of the things that we should not underestimate is the need for structure, systems, and appropriate processes to actually do this. Next slide, please. So if we look at this, and again, I'm very grateful to be able to present some of the work at Johnson & Johnson here, there are different triggers that require us to rework or launch or issue new content. It can be a brand request, a legal request, it can be audits on content, it can be data analysis, price list changes. All of these things trigger a change in our content. Now, we've also looked at the other things that Danny mentioned. Here, I'm specifically looking at the traditional product content. I'm not looking at ratings and reviews. Perhaps we are going to have a separate webinar on this again. Now, the thing is, if we think about how to produce content imagery, this can easily take 30 to 40 days, particularly if it is enhanced content. So we have to understand what is the content activities that we have to keep in-house and what are the ones that we have to outsource or that we can outsource. Johnson & Johnson realized that there is content that is time critical. For instance, creating the appropriate images. They have developed internal capabilities for computer generated images in order to have these images when the product page is launched, which is in contrast to what happens at many other brands, is that the product page could be ready, but images are missing, and therefore lost sales occur because the product page is not set up when the product would actually be available to sell, which obviously is a situation that is bad for the company and for the retailer. So the question is, how can we organize this production? And here, clearly, one of the big lessons is that we have to do two things. a best practice is to centralize the product information in an operations team that deals with nothing but managing these content assets in a way that allows everybody in the company to access these assets at the right moment. Now, fortunately, you do not have to organize this yourself. You do not have to develop these capabilities yourself. There are service information providers out there, for instance, Salsify, which work with Johnson & Johnson, but in Europe, there are others out there. There is competition around there. But what's more important is that you have to find out what is the best service provider with whom you can work that allows you to store and access these assets in a way that is useful for you. Because only when you have these consistent, timely, and accurate content pieces, you can send them and make them available at the retailers. And obviously, if you work with multiple retailers, as most of you will do, you will realize that making these accessible at the retailer at the right moment is another challenge of system processes and structures. But there is obviously help by syndicating these content items to these retailers with the help of specialized service providers, which can help small and large companies. And obviously, Clavis is one option if you want to have the retail insight in order to find out and monitor progress on these kind of issues. Next slide, please. What I think is important is also to take a moment and understand the retailer's view. And obviously, the retailer is interested in having excellent content for an excellent and compelling digital experience. And what we already saw is there's more and more standards organizations like GS1 who are helping suppliers and retailers together with an ecosystem of app and system providers to build a strong foundation for content flow. The suppliers provide the best, complete and accurate product content, and this helps the retailer to use this as a data for the foundation to build the next generation products that exceed the shopper's expectations. The last slide is, I believe, perhaps the most powerful slide with all respect to my other speakers here. If we can see the next slide, please. Ram Rampali at Walmart, who's responsible for content, has a very simple way of telling the truth about content, and that is good products plus bad or missing data equals bad products. So no matter what wonderful brands you come up with, if you have bad or missing data and content, this will be a digital experience that will not be up to par and will not help you to win online. Let's have the Q&A now. Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel, and apologies everyone for that technical hitch we had there. So as I said, if you want to ask questions, please click on the Q&A icon up in the top right-hand corner and type the question into the Q&A box, and I'll get them here and ask them to our presenters. So the first question I have actually is around consistency across different online retailers. And maybe, Danny, if you could start. Should my product landing page content be consistent across all online retailers? Danny, do you want to take that to start with, and then maybe Daniel can add in something?
Sure. By necessity, you'll have to have different content across retailers. Now, you want consistent product images, right? That's very important. But the reality is each retailer has somewhat of a different format for title. They might have character restrictions. They might have a mandatory in terms of how they want to order, the brand, the sub-brand, the variant, and the size. And some retailers want custom content. They want it custom to them. And, that's where, we work with syndication partners. Salsify is one. There are others out there who have the ability to syndicate retailer-specific content based off a centralized set of content. So, and then having the measurement against those as well, that again, the measurements are retailer-specific so that you're looking for the right keywords and the right structures at each of those retailers. So I would say in general, maybe 80–90% of the content can be consistent, but that 10% or so, you're going to want to create that variability that's specific to the retailer's formats, and particularly if you have a JBP in place and you want to do something special for them, you might give them some exclusive content that's particularly compelling.
Thanks, Danny. Daniel, do you have anything to add on that? Or?
I think there's a difference between brand content and sales content. On brand content, obviously consistency is important, although probably some retailers would like to have some exclusivity on certain assets, which every brand has to decide. Sales content can be many different things. Can be promotional content, is obviously something that can be different by retailer. So in principle, the same rules apply that you would apply in the traditional offline world. And I think those key rules work in the digital world as well.
Thanks. Yeah, and I think the thing to stress is also you should make sure to maximize the capability of what the retailer allows you to do. You know, if you're allowed to use 10 images, use 10 images, and things like that. Thanks. So there's another question. There's probably one for you, Daniel. Really, it's you know, if I'm a smaller organisation, I don't have a big team to be dealing with. It sounds like content is a complex process, making sure you're maintaining it and building it and maintaining it and distributing it. You know, if I'm a small organization, how do I do this with a small team? Is there shortcuts I can take, etc.?
Well, indeed, since the same rules and principles apply, you would argue perhaps small companies are disadvantaged. And if they would have to develop internally those capabilities, they probably would be disadvantaged. The good news is that outside of the brands, we have an emerging ecosystem of service providers that provide content management systems that small and medium brands can easily tap into. And that's perhaps one of the good things with the current situation in the consumer goods industry. They are in a world of change where they have to become very efficient, and some of these service providers have realized that they can provide these outsourced systems that can then help organize assets and then perhaps then directly syndicate them to the retailers. So yes, indeed, small and medium brands should work and contact those content management companies and work with them. There are standardized solutions out there.
Thanks. Thank you. This next question I have here is kind of about, it's kind of similar, I guess, to an earlier question, but it's about how little content or how much content can I use? You know, how much or how little content should I use? Is it a case of less is more sometimes? Danny, do you want to take that, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Is less more. You know, in this case, I'm hard pressed to think of a situation where less content is better. There's some retailers out there who still have very minimalist templates because they're operating under that presumption. But if you recall the statistics that I presented up front, there's a tremendous amount of retail, online and offline in particular, being driven by online product research. So you want as much product information on the product detail page as possible. Excuse me, if you look at website traffic numbers, retailer pages will get far more traffic than a typical brand web page. So while the impulse or the inclination is to have as much content as possible on brand websites and not as much on the retailer page, the opposite is true if you want to get in front of as many potential shoppers and buyers as possible.
Having said this, the accuracy and the richness of the content matters. So if you have to make a choice between quantity and quality, quality is still what matters. However, if you have quality and quantity, just put it all out there. Just look at one product page at Amazon and print it out. You will realize it's not one product page. If you print it out, it's 5, 10, perhaps even 20.
Yeah, and here's a related question maybe for you, Daniel. You know, what online grocery retailers are doing a good job in your opinion? So I guess what in Europe are there particular grocery retailers that have, you know, give brands and give suppliers good level of options in terms of the sort of content they can use in the online stores?
Well, I think most big retailers have understood that they have to, the more opportunities they provide for brands to provide content, the better it is. Obviously, Amazon is leading, as they've always considered themselves a tech company, but I believe there's others out there. I would probably think of Tesco and the likes in the UK, and in France, it's probably one of the retailers like Carrefour, but I'm not necessarily very clear on how that would be in each category. So I don't want to give a final explanation here.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I think I'd agree with you in terms of Amazon leading the way and some of the others are playing catch up. But as you say, I think they have started to recognise that, and it also varies across the different types of retailer. If you go into B2B wholesalers, I think are quite poor on this at this stage, but they again are also starting to pick up on it.
I think one more. Let me just say one more thing. I think it's good old marketing here again. Be clear on your target group. Be clear on your segmentation. Be clear about what your specific customer target expects as content. Do your market research. What works, what doesn't work. Segment it, and then deliver the right content, just the way you would with all other marketing messages.
Thank you. Okay, I think we've got time for one more question before I hand back to Declan for the wrap-up. And the question here says, which KPIs should we analyze to evaluate the use and effectiveness of product content? So I think that's definitely one for you, Danny, on the KPIs for the use and effectiveness of product content.
Sure. If you break that into two parts, the use versus the effectiveness. So on the use part, it's all about content accuracy and having measurement in place. Obviously, I'm biased as speaking on behalf of Clavis, but having the right measurement in place to identify typos, stray HTML characters, proactively look for category keywords that might be missing, image recognition to identify if the images are incorrect or out of date. You really want a very robust solution that can analyze your content and help make sure that the use of the content is being applied as best as possible. In terms of the effectiveness of the content, search rank is going to be the best performance measure. There are definitely studies that correlate the addition of content to impact on POS and share, but the reality is you're going to see more like single digits or low teens, and it's going to be over time. The really big and easily measurable impact is going to be on your search rank. So that one case study I showed where they went from 36 to 3. I've seen products that were ranked below 150, so page 10, and they jumped into position number 8 by just having the right category keyword added to the title. So that share of search, and that would be your share of page 1, however you choose to define it, whether it's top 3, top 5, top 10, or search rank would be the best proxy to measure the effectiveness of your content. Because ultimately the search algorithm is taking into account content, obviously along with sales performance, but after that, content becomes the most important piece of the retailer algorithm.
Thanks, Danny. So we have a few more questions here that we'll try and get back to people directly because we're not sure we have time to get them answered here online. So I'm just going to hand over to Declan to close off the event. Thank you, Declan.
Thanks, Tom. So our final webinar in this series of 3 will take place on the 15th of November. And the running title we're using is Now You See It, Now You Don't, the impact of online channel availability on consumer behaviour and sales. As most of you know, one constant between physical stores and the online channel is the critical importance of stock availability. With many online stores carrying less inventory than the traditional brick and mortar counterparts, it's easier for products to go out of stock, leading to lost sales and potentially longer-term effects such as loss of brand equity. Similarly, for traditional brick and mortar stores which are also providing an online service, many of their peak locations are not yet in dark stores but in actual working store environments, and their online product availability is critical to their actual product availability in store is critical to the online availability. So the presentation will explore important insights from ongoing industry-sponsored research into online availability, its impact on shopper behaviour, and the implications for brands and retailers. This research has covered over non-food categories in 6 European countries. I think the presentation will prompt debate, and hopefully people may attend the presentation well informed with their own company experiences of product availability within the sector. Next slide, please, Paul. Finally, I'd just like to thank Tom and Danny and Daniel for the contributions today. Please do have a look at our post-webinar survey. It's most important for us in terms of putting out quality output, and I look forward to seeing you at our next webinar on November 15th. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.